All right, so I'm being told that I have to do a think aloud to this comic. I've always been a fan of comics, and that's something that has been one of my favorite things to read growing up. So like, I don't know exactly how this goes. This is actually one of the first times I've actually had to do it, but I'm going to be reading through this and giving my God honest thoughts. And according to the little bar right here, it's going to be a pretty long comic. So let's strap in for the long run here, folks. So I don't know if there's gonna be like characters or anything. This is literally the first time I've seen it. Usually, like when it comes to kind of like stuff like this, I kind of like scout out. You know what I mean? So like I scroll down in order to see what it is. But I wanted to get my pure, raw, honest thoughts here. So let's see. You're not gonna believe what I'm about to tell you. Okay? By the oatmeal. Got it. Respect for the insignia right here. Oh, it contains profanity. Oh, not my Christian Minecraft server. I'm going to tell you some things. You're not going to believe the things I tell you. Well, okay. Uh, comic drop right there. And that's okay. You have a good reason not to. But I need you to keep listening regardless of what you believe. Okay. This Angry Birds lookalike over here looks like he is going through some things right now with all disheveled, looking all disheveled as opposed to the other one over here. I guess we'll have to see, and we're on a simple branch, so I guess let's see what he has in store. I don't care if you're a liberal, conservative, or somewhere in between. I don't care if you're a cat person, a dog person, or a tarantula person. Well, obviously, two of those things are wrong, and a cat person is the only way to go. So that is that is a incorrect statement there. Morning person or night owl, ladder. iPhone or Android, Coke or Pepsi. I don't care. All that. Oh, all I care about is that you read this to the end. Okay. As we see a zooming shot from the tree. Okay. Sound good? And let's begin. Soaring through the sky. Okay. Leaving trails behind. You may have heard that George Washington had wooden teeth. I put the fur in First Amendment. Well, that's not true, but okay. Um, I like the attempt that was made here, but okay, yeah. All right. Well, anyway, he lost most of his teeth in his 20s and had a set of dentures made out of wood. It is a disturbing visual. The founding father, commander in chief, and the first president of the United States click clacking his way through a ham sandwich. Would you like a bite? Oh my, these dad jokes, man. Like they have always been like one of my like. There are days where I like dad jokes, and there are days where I don't like dad jokes. And I guess this is one of those days where I don't know. Like it's like cringy. It's cringy, except it isn't true. In 2005, at the National Museum of Dentistry in Baltimore, laser scans were performed on Washington's 200-year-old dentures and found them to be made of gold, lead, hippopotamus ivory. I didn't know that one actually. Horse and donkey teeth. His mouth was a petting zoo of nightmares. Yes, as I can imagine, actually, that would be. Well, I can actually click on the sources. Actually, let's kind of figure that one out right there. All right. Okay. So cool. It actually lists you the different sources. That's cool. That's cool. I like that. Upon learning this information, I wanted to ask you something. How did it feel to learn that this new fact about George Washington's teeth? Well, actually, I knew about it already, so like it's not really a new revelation for me. I stated a thing. I provided evidence of that thing. And presumably you now believe in the thing I stated. Presumably your belief in the composition of George Washington's teeth has changed with little or no friction. Presumably, the next thing you're at a party and George Washington's teeth come up in conversation, you're going to proudly impart this newfound knowledge to your fellow partygoers. Yes? Well, I mean, okay. If you're at a party and the thing that you discuss is George Washington's teeth, then the party's already going pretty bad. So, like, I don't know how to feel about that, my dude. Terrific. Let's continue. All right, we're just going to ignore all that. Cool. What if I told you George Washington had another set of false teeth? What if I told you this other set wasn't made from wood, ivory, or any of the aforementioned materials? What if I told you it was made from the teeth of slaves? Oh, okay. So actually, I want to check out these sources first. Well, okay, so this is from the New York Times. I'm not the best source. G, uh, GW papers. I'm assuming it's for Washington. All right, maybe. Snopes.com. Well, here's the thing. These sources are not entirely the most reliable. So we'll have to see. I'm giving my God honest thoughts here. So hopefully we can actually provide a little bit of insight going in here. Hang on one second. I don't know. First time ever doing this, and my cat already wants to leave my room. So there we go. Hot diggity dog. Now, let's try this again. How did it feel to learn this fact about George Washington? Any more of that friction I mentioned earlier? Well, honestly, I don't know how to feel because I knew that I, we like to embellish facts, like we like to create these larger than life characters throughout all of history. I mean, Julius Caesar, for one, was one of the most embellished characters of all time. But the fact of the matter is that I knew that George Washington's teeth wasn't true. But we can't always trust sources. I mean, like it has to be all decisions have to be based on some kind of statistical or empirical evidence. And I mean, albeit I didn't read any of these sources, I just looking at the URL. I mean, like I'm not entirely going to trust everything I read on the internet. I mean, like being at my generation, like we are instinctively ingrained to not believe everything we read on the internet. I mean, in the age of Facebook, Tumblr, I'm just gonna make sure that we're recording still good. All right, we're good. Okay. I would hate to, I would hate to constantly do this again. Before we go any further, allow me to reiterate: I am not here to convince you that George Washington was a bad person. Oh, okay. I mean, there's other worse presidents out there. I could go through all my cited sources and cherry pick arguments that either defy or deify or demonize George Washington. I could paint a portrait of a monster, or I could exonerate a patriot. But as I said before, I don't care. It's not the point. The point is to give you an emotional barometer of how you feel when presented with new ideas. So I guess if I'm just before I even read this, I'm not even looking at it. I should probably scroll up then. If I'm looking at this, I am, I guess how you can say I am like I'm skeptical. I guess that would be a good way of describing it. Um, because you may have noticed that the first fact about George Washington's teeth was rather easy to accept. I mean, it's something that we grow up on, so yeah. I would even wager that when I told you this first fact, you accepted it without question. Oh my, how gosh darn interesting. That's me. I don't know who came into my room and did a self portrait, but yeah, that's me right there. Dang. The resemblance is uncanny. But when I told you the second fact, you immediately checked my sources, and you are now furiously composing an informed yet incendiary retort, which you will boldly deliver to me in the form of a sour, blustering Facebook comment. Well, second part, no. Oh, I wish I could highlight. Not like that. But yes, I did check the sources. I mean, because like whenever we are presented with new ideas, we do, at least for me, always want to check the source. Not saying that out loud. Um, and that's okay. That's all part of it. Let's try a few more. Napoleon Bonaparte was not short. He was 5'7", which was taller than most average Frenchmen at the time. You must be this tall to conquer Europe. God, I love historical humor. Animals, man. Always wanting to leave and enter the room, and then when you open the door, they don't want to leave. Come on. Thomas Crapper did not invent the flush toilet, nor did the word crap come about because of his name. Not saying that out loud. Houseflies live for about a month, not 24 hours. Life is short. False. That's right there. That is if I can digress for a second, that is one of my favorite like comebacks right here. Is just being like false. It's kind of like saying like good talk, or like even if you want to be like a little sassy, you like you do like the rhythmic sounding like it's like good talk, like stuff like that. Humans don't explode in a vacuum, nor do we boil. We just pass out from a lack of oxygen and then we die. The three emotional phases of being blown out of an airlock: shock, more shock, oh god, still in shock. I no experience. Again, as you read these facts, take stock of how you feel. I guess I'm just kind of blindly accepting right now. I haven't checked the sources. And honestly, I feel like I'm not checking the sources because the one all the way up there told me to check my sources. So, like, I call it stubbornness. I'm not going to for this one. I'm just going to read and just, for the sake of argument, blindly accept it. I'm guessing you softened to the last few fairly easily. Let's try a few more and then we're done. There is zero evidence that Jesus Christ was born on December 25th. I 100% knew that. It was actually like, if I recall correctly, it was actually like in May, but December 25th was a pagan holiday, so it just made sense. That's cool. I don't mind that you forgot my birthday for the past 2,000 years. Oof. Okay. The Pledge of Allegiance was written by a socialist. 6 of the 7 justices who voted in favor of Roe v. Wade were Republican appointed. How they feel about those? Oh my god, why can't I'm like stuttering right now. How did those last 3 feel? Depending on your beliefs, I'm guessing it may have put some of you about here. Not really. I don't feel strongly one way or the other. At the very least, you can concede that it felt different to hear those statements compared to the ones about Napoleon or houseflies. Not really, honestly. Yes, but why? Why? Well, we're gonna find out, boys and girls. Do we easily soften to some ideas but not hurt to others? Why? Do we gnash our teeth when presented with evidence to counter our beliefs? Whoever drew these is actually like amazing. I love like the art style put in here. Like you have cute down here and you're just like, oh, what are you? Do we not only ignore this evidence but dig our heels in deeper and believe more strongly in opposing argument? Well, okay, before I move on, that is actually something I'm gonna, I don't want to like support nor argue. I know that when we have a already established belief structure, anything that goes against the status quo is automatically looked on as false. I mean, look at the exploration of space. We have Galileo, like just having Copernicus. Like we are anything that is threatening the status quo is automatically thrown out as, well, I guess in that particular case, heresy. And we are looking to create a new belief structure, and we don't humans, I feel, are naturally against change. And I feel like having that out there is both detrimental and also like that's why I don't want to give like a support one way or the other, because it's so hard to do, because it's just ingrained in our brains that like, no, this is what we believe and this is why we believe in it. But at the same time, it's like I don't know, I'm just gonna move on. Why would providing more evidence make someone less likely to believe in an idea? It seems backwards, and I'm not saying that out loud. It turns out, not saying that out loud, has a name in the world of neuroscience. It's called backfire effect. The backfire effect. I've seen that one before. And it's a well-documented psychological behavior. A few years ago, at the University of Southern California's Brain and Creativity Institute, really, there's a name for that, a study was conducted where participants were placed into an MRI machine. Once inside, they were presented with counter-arguments to strongly held political beliefs. A few examples. Laws restricting gun ownership should be made more restrictive. Gay marriage should not be legalized. As participants were read these counter-arguments, well, okay. And I'll save it. I'll save it for later. Various parts of their brains were scanned for activity. Pew, 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 pew. What the study revealed was that the same part of the brain that responds to physical threat responds to an intellectual one. Really? That's interesting. The area of the brain is known as the The Amidala? Padme Amidala? No, okay. Um, and it's the emotional core for your mind. Unfortunately, it makes us biologically wired to react to threatening information the same way we'd react to being attacked by a predator. Hmm. Really? So what literally we by based on what I'm hearing, we literally can be destroyed by facts and logic. Oh no. God, it's my worst nightmare. From an evolutionary standpoint, it makes sense. If you were a caveman, Ben Shapiro had it right all along. We can be destroyed by facts and logic. If you were a caveman and another caveman would throw a boulder at your head, you wouldn't react by logically debating the pros and cons of getting brained. Frank jealous of Frank's nice cave. Frank kill Jeff and take cave. Goodbye, Jeff. Now, Frank, I think objectivity is key here. You have the one guy over here. Okay, you know what? No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just saying, I love the art style. The art style is amazing. Core beliefs are the beliefs which people cherish the most deeply. They usually develop from childhood and are compounded by life experience. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is where we are getting the idea of status quo. This is something that we believed as a child and now are being questioned through adulthood. I mean, like, it's kind of, think of it like, remember when you were first when you first found out that Santa doesn't actually exist. Spoiler alert, kid. Sorry that Santa doesn't actually exist. Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, all that. You know, it's stuff like that where we grow up believing such things, and it is so ingrained in our existence that to have evidence for the contrary, we auto response. No, that's not true. Metaphorically, sticking your head in the sand. Core beliefs are inflexible, rigid, and are incredibly sensitive to being challenged. Yes, that's a good example. When I told you that George Washington's dentures were made from animal bones, it probably didn't ruffle many feathers. But when I suggested they were made from slave teeth, I'm guessing it caused strife within you. It didn't cause me strife. It was just like, it seems a little out there, but okay. They are obvious cultural reasons for this. Slavery is a sensitive, hot button issue. Yeah. But there are biological reasons as well. I'm not even going to try pronouncing that. Actually, hang on. Let me just digress just real quick. How do we pronounce that? Let's see here. Just so I don't look like an absolute bollard here. Amygdala. Amygdala. Okay. Well, found that one out. Of your brain is screaming, battle stations. Have no fear, I'll kill with swords. Some of you may have held a worldview that George Washington was a patriot and a hero. By presenting negative information about him, it challenged that worldview. Your brain loves consistency. It builds a worldview like we build a house. It has foundation and a frame and windows and doors, and it knows exactly how everything fits together. Yes, I mean, this is a good representation for exactly what I was talking about. Dog person. False. If a new piece is introduced, it doesn't fit. The house falls apart. There's not enough room, metaphorically speaking. Your brain protects you by rejecting that piece of that piece of information. Get off my lawn, essentially. You know, it's just like, no, get out of here with that. Then it builds a fence and a moat and refuses to let in any visitors. This is why we have the backfire effect. It's a biological way of protecting a worldview. Just remember that your worldview isn't a perfect house that was built to last forever. It's a cheap condo. Oof. I feel personally attacked right now. It's a cheap condo, and over time, most of it will turn to crap. Well, I feel emasculated. I feel personally attacked. So, what do we do about this? Some of you have probably been nodding along in agreement, waiting for me to deliver a series of clever, combative ways to offset this backfire effect. There probably isn't any, by the way. There really isn't any. I mean, at least how I envision it, because it's such a hard thing to break that I am not entirely sure how you would even do it, because it essentially is changing the fundamental functions of your brain. I mean, like, as much as I want to say, like, people can change, like, I know this sounds like it's totally off the cuff and out there. Just the fact of the matter is that to have people change so fundamentally is super super hard, and I'm pretty sure, call me a pessimist, there really isn't a way to do this. The disappointing truth is that I don't have much advice for you. I don't have a way to change the behavior of 7.5 billion people. It's actually more than that now, so shows the age of this. Carrying their beliefs around like precious gems wrapped in hand grenades. That's a new sentence I never expected to hear today. Sure, there are ways of changing people's minds that are more effective than others, but ultimately they all fall short. This is compounded by the internet, where anything can be cited as a source, and every disagreement degrades into a room full of for orangutans throwing feces at one another. Goes back to my early example, like I said. But it's actually funny that, like, my dad always had a phrase saying that rules are rules. If we didn't have rules, we'd be a bunch of monkeys throwing poop at each other. And I remember that as a kid, and I'm looking back on it now that he was right. Being a kid, we look at rules as like, oh, that phrase of rules are meant to be broken. And I realize now that, the reason why rules are in place is that we literally, if you go and post anything controversial, even during this stuff about, like, as you can see right there in the bottom right corner, it is May 28th. I mean, COVID-19 is still a thing. I mean, and people are still debating on it. Like, people, like, the hot button topic right now is China with it. I mean, like, you go and post anything on the internet and you're gonna have supporters, you're also gonna have deniers. I mean, it's like, just insanity. Froth. Okay. A little shriveled feet right there. Just, it looks like jellyfish appendages right there, just like floating in the distance. Like, you have you have all of this up here with really good detail, and then these flimsy little legs. It's kind of like Aladdin, where it's just like insurmountable power, whatever that phrase is. Itty bitty little living space. The best I can do is make you aware of it, so you can identify the backfire effect in your own brain, which isn't easy. The mind can separate the emotional cortex from the logical one. Yes. Our brains are so complex. It is. We as humans have. I don't even know where to begin. With the human brain, such a huge. It's such a massive anomaly, I guess we can say, that, like, here we are. We're just. There's one way of putting it, that we are a bunch of just meat husks. I'm just making sure the recording's all good. Hey, no drop frames. Let's go, baby. That we are a bunch of meat husks, going out and. Well, okay, we were a bunch of meat husks. I'm sorry, I just butchered that analogy right there. A bunch of meat husks just piloting by the brain, and the brain is telling us what to do. The brain named itself the brain, so logically it can separate itself from the emotions to the logic. I mean, it goes back to the whole argument that, like, it's what my heart tells me to do something, but my mind tells me to do another. This is essentially the logical one. The heart, for all intents and purposes, is the emotional, but really it's all in the brain. So, like, the heart doesn't have any say in the matter. It is just an organ, that is one of the most essential in the entire body. But I digress. And I could argue that this emotional underbelly is what makes us human. But I would argue that it's also what makes us animals. Oh. Suggestive. I sometimes pretend the amygdala, we learn in chat, of my brain is in my pinky toe. Okay. When a core value is challenged, so we're just going to smash it against our bed frame until we finally learn to, hey, this isn't right, don't do that. When a core belief is challenged, I imagine it yelling insane things at me. 1 plus 3 is 4. Don't listen, Matt. 1 plus 3 is tacos. I let it yell. Every mathematician in the world just confirmed that it's 4. That's just a conspiracy of taco haters. I let it have its moment. How can the sum of two integers be Mexican food? Don't disrespect my beliefs. Every Facebook comment ever. Every Facebook Karen out there. I let the emotional cortex fight its little fight, and then I listen. And then I change. Because the universe of ours is so achingly beautiful. And we're all in it together. We're all in the same direction. I'm not here to take control of the wheel or to tell you what to believe. I'm just here to tell you that it's okay to stop, to listen. This guy still looks high. Like high as crap. To change. Oh, that was nice. That was nice. The comic was inspired by a 3-part series of the Backfire Effect from You Are Not So Smart podcast. If you want to learn more about the Backfire Effect and other related behaviors, confirmation bias, and deductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, that's actually interesting. Descartes. Okay. I mean, like, I'm not here to talk about the philosophy in that. I highly recommend listening to the whole thing. I would also like to thank my wonderful girlfriend. Okay, now we're just going into personal stuff. All right, well, dang, that was actually really cool. Wow. I was not actually imagining that. It was when I went in and thought that this comic, I thought this comic was going to be something less serious, but I guess coming from, a master's level class, I guess it was to be expected that it was actually going to be something on par with taking a look inside us all and being able to make a change. I thought it was really good. Like I said in the beginning, I love comics. I grew up with it. And I think having this visual medium right here, the art was amazing. It got across exactly what it is right here. Because, we began on the other side of the tree. So it's, wonderful visual storytelling. We started on the other side of the tree going down. And then here, we start up here and then go down. So we still have our base of the tree representing our knowledge, and we just are on the other side. We're at the end of the story. We're done here. Why are you still here? Go home. But yeah, I like to think that I will be a little more mindful when it comes to stuff like that. I know it's so hard for us to change our entire viewpoint on a particular issue just because we have differing opinions from one another. But, especially coming from the teacher perspective, it's really easy to do, I guess. We all have personal biases and we all have preconceived notions, thoughts, concepts, beliefs that we especially as educators need to actually look beyond that and be the better person. Okay, I know that sounds kind of contradictory, that we need to be better. All right, guys, this has been my TED Talk. I'd like to thank you all for coming on out. So, yeah, I guess this is Brandon McGinnis signing out.